If a product launches and no one sees it, did it even happen?
Because you built something that nobody wants. So now you're creating fake hype. Not having pre-launch is very, very dangerous.
This episode is all about getting loud before you launch.
The key thing is, again, to make sure that
Welcome to episode 5 of Founders Plus AI. Real talk for founders building big with AI. I'm Michelle Akhidenor and I'm here with my co-host Boon Chew. If a product launches and no one sees it, did it even happen? This episode is all about getting loud before you launch. We're diving into how to create buzz, build your audience, and turn curiosity into a wait list without burning out or hiring a full-time marketing team. So Boon, let's dive straight in. Boon, the first question I have for you is, why is build it and they will come a dangerous mindset to have?
Yeah, I think we need to think about how the mindset even came about. A lot of people really enjoy the building part. So naturally, they want to skip everything else and just go straight into it. So it's very easy for them to convince themselves that if I would build that, people will come. So there's a lot of assumption that goes behind that build it and they'll come sort of thing. We're not saying that it's wrong all the time, but of course we know it's not right all the time. Let's just assume that when you build it, someone will come. The question is how many people will come? Is that going to be enough? And when they come, how many people will stay? There's a lot of sort of factors behind that would determine if this product becomes successful or not. So how many people will come, how many people will stay, all of that, you have to consider them. Now, we take a step back and go back to, will they really come? Well, if they don't know you make it, they can't come. So even if they want to, so you have to have an attractive product. People have to know it exists, and then you have to give them enough reasons to stay, right? So all of those factors have to be considered. So if you just go in there and just build it and wish that people will come, that wishful thinking is almost like me saying, if I have a lot of children, all of them will get married at some point. They're attractive by default. No, you have to make sure they grow up to be a decent human being, so people will like them and want to spend time with them. It's the same thing with the product here, right? So you want to make sure that whatever you're building, you put a lot of thoughts into making it attractive, but also making sure that the attention is there so that people know it exists for them to come, and also making sure that people will come and stay because because they either come for the network effect or they come for the features alone. All those things have to be, I think the key thing about that mindset is it sort of take away the necessity to think through all these important topics. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love how you said the necessity to think through the topics, because I couldn't agree more. What are some of those first few things we can be doing to really get to build that hype before our product's even launched?
Yeah. The key thing is, again, to make sure that you're solving the right problem. Mm-hmm. That's why the validation is so important. Like if you don't have the proper sort of signals from the validation stage, creating hype is going to be a very difficult thing to do. You're going to put a lot of money and effort into it and it goes nowhere. Well, it goes nowhere because the fundamentals are not there, right? Because you built something that nobody wants. So now you're creating fake hype, maybe even, if you put money into it. For example, I can pay influencers a lot of money to go market my product to create hype. But will that, turn into something? Most likely not. They take your money and they go build that. Again, we talk about the alignment issue. The alignment is not there. They don't care if your product succeeds or not. They can cash to market your product. So you can create some sort of fake sense of sort of hype there. But does that hype turn into conversion? Does it turn into paying customers? So those are the things that you have to consider. So I would say always focus on getting signals. Always focus on the fundamentals before you even worry about the buzz or the hype side of things. Yeah.
Mm. When we think about those signals in those early days, what are they? Can you refresh us on exactly what we should be looking out for? And then how can we take those signals and, I guess, use them when we're building out the pre-launch phase?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The signal is, first of all, does the problem that you're trying to solve matter to people or not? May not be for everyone, but does it matter to the people that you want to serve? And does your solution actually solve the problem in a way that is very effective for them? So those are the signals you want to kind of see, right? When you tell them that. Like we help a founder launch the world's first friendship and dating app for the autism community. When I tell people that's what we build, in a short 10 seconds, we can see the signal right away. People get, well, wow, that's very interesting. So you see that signal. Of course, those people may not be the demographic for that. But those signals is useful to at least get some people to invest in it because they get that, right? So the signals come from different people can mean different things depending on whether the signal is coming from investors or regular people, the actual audience that you're trying to serve, the actual demographics you're trying to serve. But the key thing is really to find the signals to say, am I building things in the right direction or in the wrong direction? Sometimes you can get sort of false positive, right? And so you want to make sure that when people say, I like it, that do they really mean they like it, right? So that's also very useful to kind of filter as well. Again, some of these things, you kind of have to make mistakes to learn it. But again, the good thing is with AI, you can also make sure that signals get validated in some ways. Because AI, at least they're trained not to lie. They may hallucinate, they may tell you the wrong thing, but at least you have one thing there that could hopefully is telling you what you need to hear. Because there are also some other precedents that are out there that is similar to what you're offering. So AI can also rely on those patterns or those things that have come before you to give you proper signal to say, yeah, you're moving in the right direction or not, yeah.
And so even on that, let's just say this show is all about building an AI product, right? Our AI startup idea. If we're in that process, that very early stage of we've developed the idea, we've validated it, and now we're looking to get that beta launch going, what tools or what AI tools can we use to actually help build that hype for the beta launch?
Yeah, it's quite incredible once you know what's sort of available to you. And that's why I think the whole action quotient that I mentioned, I think a lot of actions means so much, in this era, is because the cost it takes to create videos, ads, is so low. So before you can say, I don't have the budget to do a, sort of production run on a, commercial, but now there's not. So social media is also another channel that is practically free. You're not going to TV to advertise, you're going to social media. So if you combine social media and you combine the content creation with AI, which is practically free now, right? You combine the two of them and really put a lot of energy into that. Energy means what? Time. You're not going to build a social media channel in one day, but you can use ways to accelerate that. So there are many, many different ways to accelerate. It doesn't mean you have to spend a couple of years to grow your social media channel. So you can find ways to grow it fast, but you know that the time and energy you put into it is well worth it if you deliver something that people want, right? Through the social. So in a way, the social media channel is also kind of like a product or byproduct that's cross-selling your thing. So you have to almost treat it like, your social media channel is a product you're building as well, because it's delivering something that people want, right? That product that you built, which is the social media channel, will help you cross-promote your other product, which is the actual thing you want to sell. But I think people don't put enough value into something they don't know about, right? So if I'm really good at building digital product, but I'm not good at social media, chances are I'm not going to pay that much attention to it. Same thing for people who know a lot about something, but they don't know about finance. Then they start not paying attention to the finance side of things for their startups. Those tend to be mistakes. Those tend to be blind spots that you want to cover. That's what I mentioned about bringing in people from different walks of life to really cover your blind spots. You want to really see things from their lens and say, should I magnify or amplify my effort in that, area? Just because I'm not good at that, right? So I would say sometimes you don't want to just triple down on your strength. Sometimes you have to triple down on your weakness, because the weakness is probably the area you tend to overlook. And social media, I think a lot of startups are still not using that enough. And then with the AI thing that you mentioned, there are a lot of AI tools out there that, literally even ideas to come up with content can be generated with AI. So you use AI to generate content idea, use AI to produce the actual content, and then you use the distribution channel, which is social media, to push the content out there. That's really the way to go. Right?
Music to my ears as a marketing person. Absolutely. And as a content person, absolutely could not agree more. I would also say that I loved how you mentioned that idea around the social media channel is also its own product. Even what we're doing today, in this podcast in of itself, it's its own product. Even though Yigo is really what we want to be driving people to at this stage for you and Centura Lab AI. So I love that you just mentioned that, being able to build that distribution channel for yourself by adding value through content and then using those AI tools to be able to really just get it out efficiently, easily, in a cheap way. At what stage in the process should we be thinking about starting to market our product? So, how early is too early to really start, building that audience and really start to think, okay, how are we going to get it out there? And when should founders be thinking, okay, now is the time?
Yeah, good question. I think the key thing is that when you build something and you market it, if you build something that is very sort of needed, you want to make sure people have access to it. And you want to make sure that when they have access to it, they don't get angry after they use your product. Then that would backfire, right? So you want to make sure that when you market it just about the right time, meaning that if they were to wait for you, maybe through anticipation that they want your product more, that period is a very sensitive period, meaning that you cannot make them wait too long. If you make it wait too long, their attention fizzle and then they go somewhere else. And so the timing is quite important. And you also want to make sure that when they wait, because the longer you wait, what happened? You expect the better product to be better. You're not gonna be, wait and you get something, like substandard. So I think don't underestimate sort of the cost that comes with having people wait or trying to build a buzz, because the buzz that you create could backfire if you don't do it correctly. So a lot of it really comes down to, timing things correctly. Every product is different because the demographic is different. Having a, 15-year-old, 20-year-old wait versus a, 70-year-old wait is not, they don't operate on the same timeline. Even the issues that they deal with may not have the same timeline as well. Some things may not be as urgent. So there's not really a fixed thing on that. But the key thing is really to understand whatever it is you're marketing before you even launch, what is the purpose of that? Is it because you want to have enough time to build up the attention, to build up the momentum? If that's the case, then strategize that. So it comes down to really having a good strategy. And I know I've said a lot that seems like I'm not pointing to any sort of one direction, but it comes down to really understanding that you need to think about pre-launch. That's number one, right? But the nuance, the details of how you do pre-launch is very important. Not having pre-launch is very, very dangerous because you're not getting signals, right? You're not getting signals that you could get from pre-launch, and you're also not leaving enough time for the attention to build up, right? So then you're basically relying on the fact that when you launch, then you build the attention. Well, then guess what? Are you going to have enough money and time and all that stuff too? So all those things you have to consider. But pre-launch is something that people at least have to strategize and think through, and then again, go to people in their own sort of space and get their sort of advice. When you launch your thing, or maybe ask AI, this product that was launched by someone, what kind of pre-launch strategy did they do? And have AI do the research on that and come back to you, and they can refer to that and then see what sort of positive and negative impacts they get from doing that pre-launch.
You recently just launched, actually last week, which is so exciting, Ego, your latest venture. Tell us a little bit about what that pre-launch phase looked like for Yigo and kind of what that timeline looked like, just so we have something tangible to understand how you would execute it.
Yeah. So the pre-launch with Yigo was super useful for us because it was more, we can even call it a beta launch in a sense that we're trying to make sure that we're building things that people want. Sometimes you can get the big picture correct, meaning this is really this is what people actually want. Yeah. But sometimes you get the smaller picture wrong, like micro level execution wrong. And we get a ton of signals from the micro level, right? We think people want to see this. And so we have test events because the Ego is built to basically make social networking better, easier, more efficient. And the whole premise is that when you go to an event, you don't know who you're talking to. You just go, just run into them randomly. Yigo solves that issue by allowing you to talk to someone else's AI before you even go to the event. Now, after the event, we also use Yigo to maintain the relationship, AI to AI conversation type of setup there. So by having pre-launch, like those test launches, we can test the user experience, the UX. We can test the features that we've built. We can look at the bugs that we have to make sure that to get a good sense of where we are in terms of the development, but also to make sure that we're getting feedback early enough so that we don't have to change too many things when we launch. right? So there's a lot of benefits that we get, but it was already in a state where it's useful enough for us to test a lot of the things that we've already built, like all the basic premises that I mentioned just now. Some of the things that are not in the product, we use email, PDF, whatever to simulate that, to see if people find them useful. If they find it useful, then we incorporate it into the into the actual product that will be launched later. So the pre-launch is also important in the sense that I get to show investors that we actually have a full product, that we have a full launch in a few weeks or in a month. So that also gives investors a way to even test it out and also to gauge. It's not just to sort of test out the app, but we can actually bring market sentiments to them and say, we have X number of people coming to the event. We're able to get them to use this. This is their reaction. That sort of stuff investors want to hear. So that's what we did with Yigo, and those pre-launch gave us a ton of useful product ideas and feedback for us to go back and fix things, so that when we launch, that product will be so much more mature. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that pre-launch event. And for Yigo, it makes complete sense because that's the purpose of it's a networking tool.
Yeah.
And so I think just for our founders out there listening, what I'm learning live right here now with Boon is that, whether it's an event, whether it's content, regardless of what mode you do it in terms of your marketing or your launch strategy, it's about thinking, who's my ideal user? Where do they live? Will they come along to an event and actually live test my product? Or will they be able to find me online and easily test it through the content that I produce? So I think what I'm learning from you, Boon, is that it's just about coming up with a strategy that's going to best resonate with your users. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, strategy is such a key thing there.
Yeah.
Because the pre-launch strategy, the purpose or the reason why you do pre-launch can be different. Because sometimes I can have a very full-blown product, but I still do pre-launch, not actual launch. And that could be for a specific reason. Maybe I want to create a sense of scarcity. Maybe I'm only doing by invite only to make sure that I'm controlling the quality of people coming in, but also creating a sense of scarcity so people are waiting to come in, right? But again, you have to also focus on, is this something that has been done again and again, that people are tired of it? So, a lot of these strategies, a lot of these tactics tend to be very effective the first few times when people do it. The more you do it, the more it loses its effectiveness, right? So it's kind of like marketing. You always constantly have to come up with new ways to do something. Even with pre-launch itself, even though the mechanism is pre-launch, the purpose behind that, the strategy behind that could be different for different product. But the key thing is to always ask people to think through. You don't have to wait for the product to be totally done before you do some pre-launch event, because there are benefits that comes with the pre-launch. It allows you to think through marketing sooner, right? Most people don't think about marketing until they get the whole thing done. But sometimes the whole thing may not be done. It might take 2 years to build something that you're happy with. Then you just miss the window opportunity to bring attention to the product. Yeah.
I love it. Talk to me a little bit about paid marketing. So I've read a lot on this around, it might be great to be able to quickly get users or people that are interested and almost falsify and show investors that we have 2,000 people who have signed up.
Yeah.
But are those people actually going to jump onto your platform when it launches? Are they actually going to stay there? Are they going to use your product over and over again? It's what you mentioned earlier around, it's one thing to build hype and have someone click yes to attend an event. Do they actually rock up firstly? And secondly, do they continue to use your product after it? So what feedback would you give to us founders around paid marketing? So think Facebook ads, YouTube ads, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it depends on the nature of a product, obviously. But I like to rely on word of mouth marketing first before paid ads. Because unless your product is already fully sort of like default, why would you want the whole world to know about it, right? So for me, it's like, get it launched in hands of a few hundred or a few thousand people. Make sure that they're getting good experience from that. Because once they have good experience from that, first of all, they're going to tell the whole world, other people about it. Of course, I'm talking about sort of B2C consumer-based products. B2B is different. The strategy for advertising could be different. To reach out to people could be different. But if I assume that this is a B2C product where I want to do ads so people can, so that I can bring them, even B2B you can do ads, of course. But the key thing is that, can I at least make sure that when I use conventional methods of reaching out to people in my circle, in my community, door knocking or whatever, how hard is it for me to get them to install? What sort of questions did I ask when I try to get them to do it? That sort of question, you kind of have to have a good sense first. Some things might be a little bit easier to do paid ads because you kind of know the friction to use it is just so low. Again, a lot of AI stuff probably have that sort of attributes. It's just so low. It's like you type in a few words and you get a whole video. I don't need to go through word of mouth. Everybody wants something like that because they know how hard it is for them to produce a movie by themselves. So it depends on the nature of product. But again, some of these things is word of mouth. A lot of the AI tools that I know come through word of mouth. I've never seen them in ads before. But also, the other thing to do with paid ads is that you have to look at the channels that you're using to do the paid ads. Some channels, they're all different in terms of different product will have different sort of effectiveness. Some could be newsletter. Picking the right newsletter to put your paid ads in. And so now the challenge is as a founder, you want to maximize the bang for the buck at the end of the day. So how do you figure out how much to spend on what medium in order for you to get the most attention, right? So nothing wrong with paid ads, but you have to look at word of mouth, you can look at paid ads, you can look at all those things. You also have to look at timing when you do it. Do you do it too soon? Before the product even gets to a good point, now you bring a ton of people in, and then they'll get angry at you because the product is not, done correctly yet. And then the other big thing with a lot of startups is retention. You get them in through the door. Yes. Now you got to pay at they're through the door. But how do you make them stay? If you cannot make them stay, why would you spend all that money to make them come? So you might as well focus on making them stay first. Then when you spend the money to make them come, the money is more well spent. Yeah.
I fully agree. And I think I just want to double click a little bit on that around, we talked on B2C specifically, and I think it's very clear now. It's like you can use whatever medium you want, or you can do the paid ads, you can do the word of mouth. B2B is a different beast. What would you say for a B2B founder listening around that pre-launch hype or building up that hype?
My simplest strategy, of course, there's all these questions have, a short version, a long version of the answer. My strategy has always been, even with investors, the same strategy. What sort of value can I deliver for you? And is that convincing enough for you to, right? If I pack so much value into it, I have to make it basically the value proposition is so high that you cannot say no to me. So that part, whether I use paid ads or whatever medium to deliver that is secondary. The first part is, can you make that thing so hard to resist that when you say it to people, they have to say yes to you. So I think that part is where people really have to hone, on. It's the fact that the mindset has to always be, what is it I can do for you that if I take it away, you would feel the pain, right? That thing that I'm doing for you right now that no one else is doing, meaning you can only get it from me, but nowhere else, and you really need it. And sometimes you probably don't even realize you need it until I tell you. Really hone the messaging on that, the storytelling part of it, make people understand, or at least see how people react when they listen to your message. And if you can really get it to a point where it's really effective, then you can spend the money on paid ads.
I think B2B is always so interesting because, I personally love it. It's all about that relationship building, and it's like, getting something in front of their eyes and solving that problem for them.
Yeah.
I think where the struggle comes in for a lot of founders is the thinking that if my product doesn't solve everything for them, it's just not going to be valuable enough. They're not going to give me their money, or they're not going to give me the time of day for even to have a meeting.
Yeah.
What advice or feedback would you give to founders that go, I don't even know how I'm going to get a meeting with my potential ICP?
I like to always think about things out of the box. I don't always want to go paid ads. Maybe I can loop them in and say, we're looking for beta testers. We're looking for someone to come test our product. Right? So trying to get feedback. And some of these people will become your paid customers because now you're not selling to them. Now you're basically asking them to be more like a collaborator in a way. So there are different ways to sell to someone. You have to figure out what is it that is causing them to say no to you right now. Is it because the price? Is it because they don't like to be sold to? Is it because they have other sort of things they're considering? Especially when it comes to selling to businesses. If there's a threat to the status quo, as in, if I bring you in, you're going to replace me. Why would they bring you in? So those kind of stuff you have to kind of think through as well. You have to kind of understand from their standpoint, how do they think? What is in their head when I say this to them? And what is causing them to say no? So if this is more of a high friction thing that they would say no to, can I reposition myself as someone else that is not selling to them, but more to approach them in a different way? So that's why I mentioned about getting them to be beta testing something for free, whatever it is, or giving them access so we can build the features that they want. So give them something that they're really looking for that would be more likely for them to say yes is a way to go. It doesn't have to be more like, hey, pay attention to me, use my thing. It could be a different way. It could even be sometimes creating a brand new way to reach out where you do a roundtable. When you say, I'm inviting industry experts to come give feedback or advice on the things that we're working on right now. Now they're not coming in to be sold. They're coming in to build their own audience. So they now want to come in because they want people to know their brand. Now they're building relationship with you. They now know who you are. So the chance of them willing to listen to what you have to offer them is much higher once they know who you are. So figuring out ways to build authentic relationships, figuring out ways to communicate how you can deliver value for them through other channels other than just use my product is something that founders need to pay attention to.
What AI tools can we be using to help with that authentic relationship building?
A lot of the even basic AI tools will allow you to craft your messaging correctly. I cannot stress how effective that is. Of course, you want to say things in your own tone, but sometimes even if you say in your own tone, you don't really craft it the way it should be. So you can use AI to craft it a certain way. If it comes out as being too fake, you can always tweak it. Or you can say it your own way, but then have AI mimic the tone, because AI is good at that. It's been trained on many, many different things, right, to capture those those tones. So AI tool is perfectly good for especially all the next token prediction like ChatGPT. All these tools that are out there, it's perfect for for crafting messages. And so we use some of the basic. But what I like to do is also stack them up against different LLM tools out there to see the differences that are coming back from all of them, and even use one as a judge of another one, meaning I can use one, pump it to the other one and say, what do you think of this message? And I would go back and forth a lot of times. They would improve that. I'll take it back to their previous one and say, now I have a new version. Which one do you like better? Just go back and forth on multiple things and have them be judges of each other, and then come up with a version that you would like a lot.
I love it. For the founders out there listening who are like, this sounds awesome, but I have no idea what MLM other than cheap. Exactly. I can't even say it. Other than like ChatGPT that I could test. Like, could you give us a rundown? I know there's like Claude AI, ChatGPT.
So these are some of the popular ones. If no one remembers anything, just go to ChatGPT because they're the sort of the father, like they're the first person, the first thing that came out. ChatGPT is one. There's Gemini. There's Perplexity. There's Claude. But again, people can just go in there and say, what other large language model can I use? There are quite a few out there. But again, the key thing is that all of them have different strength in different things. So I don't really rely on, now if I don't remember, just go to one. But if you really want to get good at one thing, it pays to understand their strength. Now, even that can change. But for example, with coding, we use a lot of Claude right now, right? So we used to use ChatGPT, the Pro Edition. Now we use Claude a lot. Sometimes when I go back with my tests. So there's a lot of that experimentation that has to happen. Kind of like when you hire a person in your company, you tend to go to just that one person. Why? Because the cost of switching is too high. You're not going to be switching to another person for that one task that you have them do. But with LLM, with technology, it's not that. There's no switching cost at all. Me switching from ChatGPT to Claude to Perplexity to whatever is out there is practically zero. So there's no reason not to switch all the time to get a sense of what they're good at.
So valuable. I love how I didn't even know the wording. So great. Look, Boon, I want to move into reference my very own AI startup idea that I have throughout the series. So for those of you who don't know, it's Peers AI, which is an AI voice cloning, translation, and interactive tool for podcasts. So when I'm thinking about that beta launch phase, what should I be doing to drive hype around at least the translation piece to start off with?
So because it's more, to me, it's a B2B facing type of thing.
It is.
I really want to make sure when I launch it, I can monetize relatively quickly. Because the part of the thing with B2B is I mean, what's the point of being B2B? Is you want to monetize quickly. If you cannot monetize quickly, you might as well build B2C because the market is much, much bigger, right? So how do you monetize quickly when you launch? You have to get that signal before you launch. Meaning if you go to them and have them do pre-order, how do you get them to do pre-order? You have to show them what you have. Now, if they don't give you pre-order, either the pricing is wrong or there's not enough features in there, right? So I think it's not even about the buzz, but more that can you even get them to say, when is this thing out? Right? Even that one thing that from that one person is a good signal that, oh, okay, we're on the right track here. Then you go to the next one to make sure that that signal you get from the first one is not just the only signal. You go to the next one and you try that again. If they say, nah, whatever, then you have to go back and be like, okay, with our offering, it's still not strong enough, or the pain point is not big enough, or that they don't care, or we talked to the wrong person. So all of that stuff you have to gain clarity on. That way, when you launch, your marketing campaign can be so much more effective because you know exactly who to talk to, how much they're willing to pay, and why they're paying for it, right? So that pre-launch that you're doing for, in particular case, that B2B, is really for you to get clarity on, and also signals on if you're building the right thing, and if they feel excited about it, if they cannot wait for you to produce that.
I think a huge fear I have, candidly, is that to the podcasters I've spoken to about, oh, you could translate your podcast into over 150 languages and, you could have yourself speaking in French and Mandarin and it's going to sound like you, but just another language. The immediate reaction is, that is so cool. I've never heard of that before. Wow, my goodness, that sounds awesome. When are you producing it?
Yeah.
My concern is that hype, that even if they do sign up or they say, yes, I want to do this and I want to try it out, my concern is that it would die off. And I think this is where the messaging around the problem that translation solves, which is that, just a quick recap, right now in the podcast industry, getting attention and growing your show and getting the amount of listeners that you really want is very, very difficult. Apps like Spotify and Apple don't have inbuilt algorithms that automatically push your show forward. So it takes a lot of strategic thinking, and the way we do it at Pierce Project is running a lot of paid ads, et cetera, et cetera. Doing it again in a strategic way. It doesn't just work when you put up an ad. How do I communicate to the very early users that, yes, it's very cool to translate your podcast into Mandarin, but the fundamentals of this is so that you can reach more people, so that you can essentially solve your core problem, which is that reach. So I always think about, in that pre-launch campaign, how to make that clear.
The key thing I would say, based on your feedback, is that you, first of all, be the first customer. You translate, and the translation doesn't have to be AI, right? You just translate it. You just translate yourself. I mean, it's a lot of work. So the key thing is that you want to do it without your tool, and you go through the pain of doing it. So you now understand how much pain you have to spend doing that. Second of all, once you go through that pain, what sort of results are you getting? If the result is very good, meaning you're getting a lot more users, you get that statistics, the data for launching in different languages or whatever, that data is very useful. That pain is very useful, because if you get high outcome and you have high pain, then people want it because they want high outcome and low pain. So that's why they're paying your product for. So you yourself can actually get yourself a very clear signal right away. If I do the auto translation, that high pain will be gone, because I will spend, how much money you spend. That's a part where you can figure out the pricing. Because if you have to spend time plus money, you only have to charge them a fraction of that for them to come on board, because they can do the math. That's the beauty of B2B, right? If you are willing to go through all of that to get that outcome, imagine if you pay only a fraction of that. Why would you say no to that? The sort of the increased audience. But if you do all of that and you don't get audience, to your point, you're not reaching to more people, or even if you reach out to some people, you're not getting any sort of return from conversion or whatever, then it becomes an issue, right? The other thing I mentioned about the product in early on is how you create the engagement component to it. Maybe that's another thing you need to add to it, so that once they use the solution, not only are getting translation and all of that, but they're getting the engagement factor that brings even more conversion for their thing. Maybe that could be that missing ingredient that if you add in there, that will allow you to double the the pricing and all of that. So that stuff you have to experiment manually first, even with the help of AI. Once you see that, then you know, okay, this product right here should be very appealing. I can charge a lot of money for. Yeah.
So valuable. My mind's always ticking over whenever we talk about this AI startup idea. Boon, we've covered a lot of ground when it comes to marketing, when it comes to that pre-launch strategy. I guess the final question I have for you is, what is the biggest mistake that founders make in this pre-launch beta phase?
I think one biggest mistake is they don't do pre-launch. They miss that. And if they do pre-launch, they don't really think through it enough, like the strategy thing that you mentioned, right? They think that just pre-launch means burning $30,000 to go hire influencers to do it. No, that $30,000 could have been spent making the product better. Money doesn't translate to results, right? It has to be spent in the right way. So I've seen many different sort of wrong things people have done, starting from not doing it at all, but doing it the wrong way. Like these are probably the top reasons why pre-launch. But sometimes they do it and then they did it the wrong way and they think pre-launch is not useful. That's the wrong conclusion, right? And which is like another bad thing. It's like you did something wrong. It's something you need to do, but you didn't do it correctly, and you think that it's not something you should do. No, you should do it, but you have to do it right. So that's why bringing advisors in, using AI to look at how other people do it, really do research on them to understand, and then to really reduce the chance of you failing on that is so important. Yeah.
So invaluable. I love it. Oh, Boon, that was awesome. So this was the crash course as to how to launch with hype before your product has even shipped. So next up, we're talking about fundraising, which is how to pitch to investors, my favorite topic, without a finished product yet, or any product at all. Until then, make sure to hit subscribe so you do not miss what's next, and follow Centralab AI on LinkedIn and YouTube, and join our newsletter to stay in the loop. If you have an idea of your own, pitch it to us there. We'll see you next time, builders.
This episode is brought to you by Ego, short for your extended ego. Imagine an AI version of you nurturing relationships behind the scenes 24/7. Ego takes care of all virtual networking behind the scenes, all in your voice. Sometimes we simply don't have enough time. We forget to follow up, we forget details about that one person. But with Ego, you never have to miss out on a good connection. Ego, your network supercharged.